All right. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead, get started. Before we start, I just want to say, when you're in the lab, your recording will be later on uploaded to YouTube. So look for a YouTube link on Canvas. Okay. It takes a little while to process the video, so usually it will be uploaded later afternoon. Right? Okay. Given that we don't have career day today, I'm actually going to call out people's names. If you're not here, I will move forward to the next student. And then when you return, let me know. I will review your drawing. Okay. So I think we have 154, Juliana. Okay, cool. No, you don't need to show the FFE of the building. Oh, for the final. Well, do you mean final of exercise 1 or final? Yes. The one due to Sunday, I just checked. I don't believe so. I believe that you need to put the building in a location that creates 10-foot elevation change. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure you need to do slope. Well, you don't need to calculate any slopes, but no, you do need to place all these areas in an area where the slope is in an optimal range. Okay. I don't believe you need to label because it's not timing yet. It's not time to do that yet. It's still too early. Okay. So note your parking lot corners would not be straight lines because so for now, the arrangement of your parking stalls are not correct yet. So again, I would, oh yeah, you're not in my group last time. So my recommendation is again, to go back to the lecture slide, look for the standard single load or double load parking. And you will know that you have parking stalls here and there, right? And again, we're walking across the parking stalls to get into the building. Oh, not really. You are actually walking this way to get to the building, but you could kind of see if I walk here, I cross my drop off, right? My parking lot is in a really steep area, and between my parking lot and my building is my drop off. So you're forcing people to kind of walk through your drop off, which is not ideal. So you would change your drop off to this area and you actually rotate your parking lot and put it in this area. And then the drop off of the parking lot will be in this location. You drop people off and they walk toward your building. Okay. Your building could be moved a little bit up, but I think no, for now it's okay too. We'll see how things go once you move these over, basically rotating your whole design to this direction. Okay, so your parking spots should be aligned this way. Okay, those are your parking spot, and then no, they are not straight corners because there's no paved space in the corner that will just collect debris. Okay. So what's the maximum size that all rows can be? I don't think we set a maximum size, but you should fulfill minimum size requirement. And remember that we're trying to reduce the environmental impact of our design, right? So stick to the minimum, or slightly above the minimum, but don't go for a size that are not necessary. Are we supposed to label spot elevations and for the final? No, you are not at that stage yet. Okay, we're still trying to do the layout, the site layout. Where do we place retaining walls? Retaining walls should be here, or if you have stairs, you should be at the outside edge of your stairs. The ramp, you would, on the side, you could draw a 200 feet long line, which connect, okay? It needs to connect from the front plaza to the back plaza. Okay, that's the requirement for the ramp. Does every single road need to be adjacent to? No? Well, you designate sidewalk where it makes sense, where people would use and where you could lead people safely to a building, okay? Where you must have a sidewalk, you would actually look for instance, in the middle here, it might be beneficial to have a sidewalk if you also design for this sidewalk to connect over in the middle and then go into your building. Okay, that's a place where it would necessitate a sidewalk. And how wide does the sidewalk need to be? It will be minimal 4 feet. That's the width that allows two people to pass by simultaneously. You could make a more spacious sidewalk depending on what kind of experience you want to create for people. Okay. Your drop off, let me clear here, except for the, no, I will again ask you to rotate it. And the rounding of the corners should be like this. Okay, you should not have a sharp acute angle there, right? That's that one. That's all the questions you have. Anything else? Yeah, the main thing is to move the drop off over, rotate this 90-degree, and then have the car drop off here, which will be, if you rotate it, it will be kind of oriented toward the building, connect your plaza, add the ramp, add the stairs, add the retaining walls. And then this, it's too close, right? That needs to be 50 feet. Okay, that's too close of a connection. Once you rotated it, you'll figure out a better connecting road for that one. Okay, that's it. Sure.
So for the bus drop off, I know that circle has to be 100 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
How small does the little circle inside of it have to be?
So you would base that on the width of the road. Okay, the road needs to be for bus turnaround. Do you remember? 30, 35, okay? And then based on that, you would offset your inner circle. Yeah. All right. So, okay, I'll move forward. Let me see. Next we have, sorry, I couldn't figure out. No, let me go to, I want to learn your names. Okay. This is one difficult to pronounce. Can someone, are you here? The second student? Let's see. Yeah. Is this student here? Doesn't seem like so. Okay. We'll go to Evelyn then. Okay. Here. Me try to add. Okay. All right, Evelyn here? Evelyn here? I think this is my group, right? Am I wrong? No. Okay, Aiden? Huh. Delaney? Timothy? Ah, a little strange. Henry?
Here.
Okay, good. And your number is, well, maybe I should just go from the individual ones. Okay, cool. So I don't see questions. We have, I would actually need to see your parking stall in arrangement to be able to evaluate whether you have enough space, right? It seems to me is a little shorter than necessary. So I'm not sure if you have enough space here to put the parking lots here. And I would encourage you to start with this part, okay? Start with this part, put your parking spot in. Okay, in this case, you will have basically a 2 rows of parking and your driving aisle in between. You need to keep 50 feet away from the vegetation for now, okay? So try to, you definitely need to move things to that direction. And you can get to up to this line, that's this contour line. Otherwise, we're getting into areas that are too steep, okay? Align the center line of this road to your entry road. Start with that. And then the relationship generally works, okay? It works. I'm just not sure if you have enough space. If not, push this to this direction, push the whole thing to that direction. So you are 50 feet away from the vegetation, and try to stay away from this steep area if possible, okay? The other thing would be, you do need a more spacious plaza, okay? You try to, it looks like you try to create a grand feeling once you get off the bus. And when people get off, you have a really little thing here, plaza, for people to step on, right? So that kind of doesn't align with your original design idea, okay? Will be better if you have a more formal plaza space connecting the drop off, and also connecting this parking lot to your building, okay? These walkways are doesn't match the demand, okay? That doesn't match the demand of the pedestrian flow from both of these parking areas. Your back plaza, that's a little small, that's okay. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be big. If your back plaza is here, it's likely your retaining wall, likely you will have some retaining walls actually surround your plaza, because this is where you start, no, that's the lowest. And then here you start to have slope where you might have a pretty big elevation difference that you need to cross. Anything else for this one? We're good? Okay. Okay. Gabby, right? Did I pronounce it right? You here? Okay. Woody. Luke. All right. Okay. So how should we show the legend if the plot style is required in black and white gray scale? Show the legend. you're correct. Your legend should be here. Later on, you might need to push the other things, down a little bit to fit in all your legend. But for now, let's see. Let's see what's the requirement of standards. Graphic standards here. Is it a relaxed or it's the same as the final? So should be this one. So this one basically need to, I don't see the rubric. Okay, there's no detail rubric. You have title block including legend, written scales. You do need all the legend. Okay, so for now, you need to put all the different kinds of line types here. You have building, you have plaza. Basically, plaza, you should change it to pavement, okay? And road and parking and stairs. Those are the retaining wall, okay? You do need to make the legend more complete, maybe using 2 columns. Okay, using 2 columns, reduce the font size. You could widen the legend, try to fit all of them in. Okay, so your ADA spot. Well, I would put the ADA if your design is like this. Wherever is the closest to a building, you should put your ADAs, both of them here. Okay. Your parking lot roundabout need to be changed. I don't know if you have enough. No, the radius, it's correct. I would suggest that you check the grading class final project. That turnaround example given to you should be a good example to follow. And I would suggest also checking the dimension here, right? If your parking stalls are 9 by 18 or 10 by 20, this is much more than 25. So the parking space here are not exactly to scale. How big should the inner circle be as to avoid people turning left? Well, it's not that is helping people decide whether or not they need to turn left, okay? Your design here, it is directing people to the right direction, but the thing is you need a 90-degree angle here, okay? 90-degree angle here to kind of guide that once I'm here, I see the stop sign, I stop, and then I turn right. Okay, same issue. We should be 50 feet away from the vegetation, so this whole thing needs to be moved north. Your building is on a flatter area than desired. Okay, so you could push this down to once the building crosses like 5 to 6 contours. So this is a little bit better, actually much better than when you put it on a flatland, because you're trying to create a 10 feet difference. Okay, if you don't have enough difference in the very beginning, that means you need to cut a lot. Okay, cut a lot at the back of the building to try to create that difference. So I would recommend, first thing, correct the dimension of your parking stalls and the width of the road. Correct the radius of the turnaround. Move the drop off away from the vegetation, and then, well, the other things, you do not need a walkway over here, because people see your building, they would not go back to the parking lot and walk a longer way, okay? Unless there are attractions. Unless you design attractions over here, people won't turn back and then walk a long way around the parking lot. So that one, for now, I would suggest delete, and that would also help you, make your plaza less paved. Okay, so that works. This works. The location of the stairs makes sense. You need also retaining walls no, to be on the side of your outside edge of your stairs, that retaining wall makes sense. Okay, so those are the revisions that I suggest. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Okay. Zachary? Zach here? Okay. 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 Good start. Got just a couple things. So I would design a bigger plaza. Okay. For now, your building is relatively in a relative flat area. You could move it down a tad, align with the contours, and then that becomes your plaza. Okay. I would turn back because here it's still a Y. No, these two, they seem to be pretty equal. So that forces people to say, do I turn left or do I follow along, right? It's not clear enough. Where should I go? So that one, move the building a little bit back, have that as your pavement line for your plaza, or a little bit bigger, be okay too. Well, let me try to make it a little closer. I would start from here, align it with your contours, and that's your plaza. Okay. Well, polishing your design by rounding the corners of the road, make it more a smoother road. And for here, you don't need to, for this one, you actually do not need to make a similar Y-shaped turnaround. You could basically just do a circle, okay? And we're getting to a pretty steep area, so try to reduce the size of the neck, right? You don't necessarily need such a long neck. Again, follow the grading class example, and then your plaza needs to connect to the front plaza. For now, you kind of have to be dropped off and then you walk back to the front plaza. Remember, there's slope in between, okay? I can't just walk this. Well, if your building is that up front, you need to kind of walk that way to get to the front. Once my building is moved back, then there is a more straightforward connection to my building, okay? If my drop off is sort of in this area, I can even make it a little bit larger. Yeah,
Stuart said one of the students can't get into your school.
okay. I'm going to go to the breakout room.
It's a little hard.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I think we are good for this one. Remember to add your stairs, add your ramp, at your back plaza, label your front plaza and back plaza. And that's it. Question? Yeah.
So with the lines on the road, link that direct to you rather than, the only reason I did that is so kind of outline, if you're coming in either way, wouldn't the lines kind of direct you which way you're going into that?
You mean the bus drop off or the bus drop off? You could retain this design, but honestly, you don't necessarily have to, because again, you're increasing a little bit of a paved area, right? If you basically directly turn from here, you don't need that paved area. So I wouldn't I'm not saying it's mandatory that you have to change it to it, but I'm laying out a little bit more benefit. Basically do a 90-degree turn instead of creating a little bit more paved surface.
Yeah, Professor Echo said that, did you record it?
I did.
Okay, because didn't record the first part of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Stuart Mannering? He can record.
Mhm.
He should be able to record. Let me return to see if he's recording. Ariana, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's go. Okay, so still a bit unsure about my driving entry. How can I make sure they have the correct measurements? So unsure on where to connect the entry drive at the start of it. I don't know if my retaining walls are correct. Your retaining walls look okay. At least the one at the back look okay to me. Yeah, next to your stairs, connect to the plaza, to the building. Your stairs are not in the right location. I can't tell where it is. How do I make sure the measurements of the roundabout drop-offs are correct? The bus drop-off needs to be 110. The car drop-off right now is much larger than your bus drop-off. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. And okay, the connection here. So you're trying to adopt kind of a scheme pretty similar to one of the previous assignment, right? You want to go in the middle, having a bus drop off, which needs to be 100 or 110 in diameter. And then you want to branch off into a separate parking here. This design, you could make it work, right? But I would say it does have more paved surfaces than the typical single loaded or double loaded design, okay? Because in order to not make both of these dead end parking, you need a drop-off area in both, okay? In both parking lot. And for both of these parking, you also need to accommodate at least 2 cars at the same time at the drop-off area so that when I'm dropping people off, I'm not obstructing the flow of the traffic, right? Other people can pass by. So, and then you would have walkway and plaza connecting to your building. So you can make it work. It's a lot of paved surface. If you do not want to create a new design from scratch, you could adopt this. Okay, you could adopt the scheme. My recommendation would be you first lay out these 2 individual parking lots, 10 parking stalls for each one, right? And add a drop-off area for both of them and try to place it in areas that are flat. I am intruding into the steep slope over here, so that's less ideal, okay? You would want that to stay away from the steep areas here, keep 50 feet away from the vegetation. So place those two first, okay? And then put a 110 diameter in the middle, okay, in the middle, and see how much space you have left, or if you can even accommodate. Well, based on other folks' experience, you could fit them in, okay, you could fit them in. And then your building location actually looks pretty good. So those are the steps that I would recommend you to proceed. Plaza location, okay. Is it correct if my parking lot measures 65 foot? Let's see, your parking lot measures 65. Do you mean width or length? If it's, yeah, if it's this direction, that's correct, right? That's 65 foot. That's right. And then if
Yeah, that's what I meant.
is this direction, then it should be 10 parking space. So that should be 10 by 10 at least for the parking portion. And then you will add the drop off area, okay? Well, for now, for the last question, does my parking lot look too simple? No, it doesn't look too simple. It actually, it's your layout that is complicated, right? Not your single parking lot. The simple parking lot, it's a straightforward design, but your layout is a little bit more complicated than the two-part design. No, only including one parking lot and one drop-off area. That's the two-part design. You have a three-part design. Once you figure out whether or not or how much space you have in middle, then you can decide whether or not you add vegetation. Okay. My guess is you will still have some room to add some vegetation, but I don't think that's the priority at this stage. Okay. Ariana, do you have other questions?
No, thank you. Oh, actually, just one. So then I would just need one roundabout, like as the bus drop off.
Right, but you do need drop off area here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And then also, where can I find like measurements for like the driveway?
For the driveway, it's 25. For the bus drop off, it's 30 or 35.
Okay, so then if it was 25 like in the width, would I have like a two-lane like
That's
sort of
that's the
situation?
width for the 2 lane.
Okay, thank you.
You don't need to double that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna clear. Next we have Sylvie. Okay. Okay. So questions, is it fine to have the entrance to parking lot that close to the road? No. Unfortunately, we have to have 50 feet at least for the stacking distance. And 40 sports white, also keeping that drop of 50 feet away from the building. Oh, your building could be pushed back, okay? Your building right now, it only crosses 3 contour lines. You could push it back to where it will cross like 5 to 6. Okay. Lower plaza looks good. You don't need that big of a lower plaza, but that's okay. We don't have to change at this stage. We'll know a little bit better once we do the grading and know whether or not it will create too much of a cut at the bottom. So yeah, well, I assume that Stuart moved the plaza to to move the plaza lower last time, I'm recommending to move it even lower, okay? So that you would have space for your parking lot there. So I would say move the whole thing. Move your whole design back for 2 or 3 contour lines to somewhere here. The building would be somewhere here. Later on, you might find, okay, this is getting a little tight. You could even move it up a little bit like this. Okay, and then the whole thing, yeah, the whole thing could be moved up. I would actually flip the curved parking lot, because I'm trying to not flip, sorry. Turn, okay, turn it like this. So I maximize or minimize, okay, minimize my distance to vegetation to 50 feet, okay? And then that turnaround comes here, and this connecting road goes in after a stacking distance of 50. And this looks okay. Well, you would make it a smoother curved line for your bus drop off. And this is a 90-degree angle. We're not getting into the steeper area, so that's good. Again, I'm not convinced that your sidewalk needs to start there. You might start somewhere here, okay? Somewhere here where you drop people off along this edge, you know, so that becomes a expanded sort of landing area for people who are dropped off. I think you have a good start. You clean this up, make it more detailed, and put the labels, add all the components. Some things needs to be moved around a little bit, but generally it works.
So overall, it's a good design to.
Overall, you can progress with this design. Okay. All right. Be clear. Next, we have Amelia. Oh, okay. Graham. Okay. Questions are pretty small, so I'm just gonna. Where do the rest of the retaining walls go? You have, yeah, the replacement of your retaining walls are good. And the line weights, I would add a few more nuanced hierarchy here. Okay, so your pavement looks okay. The retaining wall needs to be thicker. The building needs to be thicker. You still need to add stairs, so that's one of the thin lines. The pavement looks okay. Road needs to be thicker. Okay, road needs to be thicker. And do I move the parking lot back enough? Yes, the parking lot seems to be in a good location. You need to add, okay, your ADA, I suppose, is here. That should be, yeah, should be okay. Okay. This is pretty close, okay, very close. I might just ask you to smooth this out a bit. Okay, so it just kind of flows into the circle like that. And then we're missing probably just one line here, as this is vegetation and this is paved. We're missing stairs, and oh, you could put the stairs over here. That's totally fine, whichever side. And put your stairs and your ramps in. And I think it's just labeling, line weight, make it complete, fill in the missing components. I think it's in a good shape. Okay. All right. Alice. Is Alice here? Alec? Okay. All right. Okay. The plaza is pretty big. The plaza does need to connect to, well, you wouldn't have, okay, let me read through your questions first. It's my ramp stairs placement in the right location. Yeah, this roughly that location, but your ramp wouldn't be combined with your stairs, right? Even if they are located together, it will occupy a much bigger footprint. Okay, that looks like stair only. Turnaround makes sense. Well, it shouldn't be connected to the parking lot. Okay, you don't want people to be confused once they drive around here and then, no, I need to decide if I go into the parking lot there or if I return back. You would want it to be simplified. The buses go over here and then it just, drives out of the area. Do not encourage buses to go over here. And when you have such a limited area there, this intersection is going to be pretty chaotic. Okay, so the line weight, the line weight, we have AutoCAD resources as a separate module. Okay, there's a module on Canvas. You go to those graphic standards. Those resources have been there since the grading class. And if you still have trouble figuring out, you definitely need to get in touch with Jonathan and the other two TAs. Okay, get help as early as possible, because all your 4 assignments, there is a big chunk of the rubric that is graphic standards. Okay. Directly use the 235 CTB file. Okay, you should still have a copy of that. Use that CTB file for this class. For now, you would start thinking about where you should have plant or vegetation in the parking lot, right? Is either at the outside, along the edge of the parking lot, if you're directing water. For instance, if you're directing water away from the building, parking lot, your vegetated area will be in these locations, right? Which means in this area, you should not get too steep, okay? If you do not direct water to the side, instead, later on you create a swale in the middle of the parking lot, then you need to think about, okay, that area needs to be adding a medium, okay, medium of vegetation. Or it could be you're directing water like this. That's also another option. Okay, so that means this is your vegetated area in the middle that will be later on receiving the stormwater, right? So those are some ways to start thinking where your vegetation would be. This assignment does ask you to dedicate, okay, conceptually dedicate some green areas so that you reserve, okay, you reserve some area for vegetation for your later design, which will get changed, okay? Things change a lot during the course of the semester, and you will need to get used to, okay, now the situation has changed a little bit, I need to adjust my design, revise my base map. That will be common. Okay, it will be tiring, but it will be common, and that should be the process. Okay. All right, so that's the things about the vegetation in line with the other questions. Okay, so this drop off doesn't make sense, right? Where are you dropping people off? The drop off needs to be in this area, right? And once we disconnect it, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you do have enough parking stalls, looks like, but I'm not exactly sure your parking stalls are in the right dimension. Okay, so you need to double check. So the first thing, correct this, disconnect it from the parking lot itself. The second thing is that you need to verify the dimension of your parking stalls. Needs to be either 9 by 18 or 10 by 20. Okay, and then the driving aisle needs to be about 25. So in that case, if you look at the previous submission, you would know it's probably not big enough yet. Okay, it's probably big enough, not big enough for a design. So it might mean you need to rotate your parking lot to somewhat of a direction like that and make it larger. Okay, and if you want to have two connections, that's okay. If you want to connect the driving between the bus drop off and your parking lot in this way, that's okay too. That's okay to retain that one. And after that, the plaza should not be a rectangle. So a polygon that is just a rectangle that doesn't really show the actual connection between your building. Okay, this is conceptually sort of illustrated, but at this stage, you should know where exactly the pavement boundaries are. All right. So for instance, if I keep your design, I would have a line like this, starting from the drop off. And then if I keep your design, people probably walk like that. So you would have a walkway over, and then eventually that becomes a plaza. Okay, so that looks like the boundary of your plaza. You could make it bigger, but the lines should show exact locations of your initial upper plaza. Okay. So any other questions about the submission? Okay. All right. Jonah? Okay, good. Let's see, this car drop off okay? Is it supposed to be 2 ways? Road to the parking lot. I'm not sure. You have 50 feet here. Okay. Then you have a bus drop off, you have a plaza, you have one parking lot and then connected to another parking lot. Parking spaces. Are we sure that you cannot fit 40 in here? So I think you probably have enough space by even to making this a little bit longer instead of having a separate portion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10. If we draw the same line, I think you have enough already. So if this is 10 parking lot, I can see that this can fit more than 10, right? Even 15. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I'm not sure you need this portion. Okay, and actually that makes it a lot easier. And for the car drop off, you need to round the corners here. Round the corners. And then these, because nobody will drive over there, right? You know, the car turn into the next driving aisle. So they are two ways. If you have space for three cars, they are two-way. Okay? It looks like you do. It looks like you do have space for three cars, one parked, two moving. So double check the number of parking spaces you are able to fit in. I think you have enough. So first thing, move this further away from the vegetation. Second thing, check the parking spots. And you are pretty close at the island in the middle here. I'm not convinced you have to start the sidewalk over here. If I'm dropping people off, that's enough space for people to be dropped off. So I can actually start my plaza right there. Same thing, I don't really need a sidewalk over there, so I can start my plaza, somewhere here. Steps need retaining walls, okay? Step need retaining walls. On the other side, the retaining wall here is okay. Add a ramp. And yes, work on the plotting style, right? That's all I have. Not a huge amount of revisions. It should be straightforward. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Next, we have Victoria. Okay. All right. So altering the line weights order for it to try to increasing the thickness. They look still the same. Did the CTB work for you last semester? Did the CTB work for you last semester? And this semester it just didn't work?
Well, I mean, it works, it's just like, how do I alter it?
Okay.
Same
You have the
problem.
same problem? Well, I don't know if Jonathan is here today, but I will give him a heads up. Okay, I'll give him a heads up that we have this issue. I'll ask him to troubleshoot a little bit. If the CTB file doesn't have any problems on his computer, then you probably need to get in touch with him individually to see why it didn't work on yours.
I
Okay.
emailed him, but I
Mm.
still haven't received a response.
Okay, we'll let him know. Okay. There's a certain number of feet that the stairs should drop down to. Okay, the stairs, we are going through 10 feet of elevation difference. Later on, it will be a little different because it depends on the upper plaza elevation and the lower plaza elevation, which could slightly differ from your FFE, top FFE, and bottom FFE. But for now, you should just put 20 steps. Okay, if you want to go into the design of the stairs, you could just put 20 steps because it's 10 feet, roughly 10 feet in elevation difference, right? Go ahead. Okay. Oh, okay. That's a thumb up. Yeah, we don't know the specific plaza elevations yet, especially the corner of the plaza. All right, when would you be okay to connect the entrances of the bus drop off to the parking lot and the car drop off? So connect the entrances of the bus drop off to the do you mean you want the connection to be separate? Do you mean you wanna connect like this?
Yeah, they said it was possible to do that.
Yes, you could directly do this. Well, align this line. So basically, we would want to keep the road continuous. Okay, at this point, I could go inside and then go like this because it's two-way, so it doesn't matter. You could turn around this way or that way. Your car drop off here should be larger so that you can fit one more car while it's parked, and then 25 feet over here. Okay? And this should be stopped right there, and then that needs to go like this. All right. And then that means you are losing a couple of parking lots, so make it a bit longer. In either direction would be fine, but you should have enough space to fit them in. And this one, this is a little bit too close to the building. So I'm actually suggesting you measure it 50 feet over here. Okay, measure 50 feet over there, and then follow this line. Okay, offset 50 feet. So that becomes your drop off. And then that drags the bus drop off a little bit away from the building. Our building is a little closer too close to the tree as well. So eventually you might want your building in some sort of location like this. Okay, because it's still pretty flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could push it down a little bit. The reason that you need to drag it out kind of away from the bus drop is that later on you would have a swell. Okay, you would have a swell. If my building is still here, my swell needs to go like this, or it needs to go into the vegetation. If it's this situation that you don't have enough space, okay, we also want to leave enough space for it to if I want to direct my water to the vegetation here, I need to design a depression over here. We don't have enough space to manure in this area if the building is still in that location. If your drop off is in this location, you can see how my swale doesn't have much area to go, right? It doesn't have the space to go in between these two. It has to go into your bus drop off, which is not a great design because your plaza is generally pretty clean water. Okay, in the winter it has some salt, but it doesn't have automobile pollution. But your bus drop off, it's all kinds of different kinds of things. So that means you are mixing your relatively clean water into a dirty water and then treat them, which is not necessary, right? It's creating burden for water quality treatment. So dragging your bus drop off back away from the building will make life a lot easier later on. Okay, so those are what I have. The stairs works, but the stair needs to start with well, it looks like your front plaza ends about there. So the way you start your stairs in the middle of the building, that's okay. Otherwise, we're missing a ramp that's need to be added, and then that's it. Any other questions? Okay, good. It's clear. Mhm. Next, we have Will. I know Will, it's online, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does the vegetation buffer apply to parking spaces? Yes, it does apply to parking spaces. So this needs to be 50. You still have quite a bit of space over here. Okay, so we can push it to this contour line. So we should have enough space there. No, there is no specific size the plaza needs to be. For now, I would say, no, in this area is a little too small. Again, coming back to the talk about the swell, you need your swell to flow along, the front of the building, you don't have enough space. Well, you have enough space to create a swale, but you don't want your full plaza to be a narrow swale. Okay, although the swale is pretty subtle, we still want to have some usable space in the plaza. So does the parking area work? I would say it currently creates a lot of flexibility, and you might want to limit that flexibility a little. Okay. We'll come back to that. The line weights are pretty even, so we need thicker roadways, thicker buildings, thicker retaining walls. Change the existing contour to dash lines. That will make your design pop out a bit more. Change the paved lines, the pavement lines to thinner lines. Okay. And I noticed that some of your parking stalls are not the same dimension. So you would need to check the dimensions of the parking stalls. And also, I think you have more parking spaces than necessary. Not enough width for the driving aisle. So the design of the parking stalls, they need to be adjusted, okay? So actually, if this is the driving aisle, you do not want median. Okay? You do not want median in a parking lot. You want a vegetated median along a road, but not a parking lot. I kind of see your intention. This is probably 25, right? And for this one, it's a little confusing though. You would measure 25, and then you would have your parking stalls over here. And then you close it off, you know, for it to come in like this. Well, you want to come in where your driving aisle starts. You align, okay? Basically, you align your, so if this is, suppose this is the actual driving stalls, no, parking stalls, your road flow into the driving aisle and then come back and then loop around. I'm gonna go back to, and remember, it's probably grams. This is a typical, right? A standard blade shaped parking lot design. Okay. You can see, let me clear the drawings. This island or this medium area, if you don't have space, you can eliminate that for now if you don't have space. But in the middle, you have 2 rows of parking. Okay. And then you have the 25 foot. And then you have 1 more row of parking on each side. You can add other things such as sidewalk if you think that's necessary, but the driving needs to be aligned. Okay. Well, if in other designs, folks are coming in from here, the entry road should align with the driving aisle inside. Right? So this is the typical design, and the example is on course slides. So you should be able to go back to the class lecture slide and come back to that one. Let's see. So modify your blade-shaped parking lot according to the standardized design, and move the building backward a little, and then I think that will solve, okay? That will solve your connection, okay? Connection between your drop-off, your bus drop-off and your parking lot. So let me recap. Move this 50 feet away. Check your parking stall dimensions. Follow the standard blade design and try to close it off to, if you have a separate entrance, close it off to the bus drop off. If you don't have a separate entrance, if you want to get rid of this, the connection can come from here, okay? And the way you are doing it is correct. It aligns with the driving aisle inside the parking lot, all right? And in that case, close this off as well, having only one entrance. Because this is not a huge parking lot, one major entrance would be sufficient. And round this corner, you still have a lot of space in here. No, and you can see if you can actually move this a little bit to lower, okay? Then meaning that you are shortening your road, reducing your paved space, and you're not getting into the steeper area. So that's a good move if you have space, okay? And then the third thing is to move this down. Move this down to where you actually have a little bit steeper area, which is good for the 10-foot differences. And then you have enough plaza area. You connect to your connect to your building to the drop off through the plaza area in between. Okay? Those are the 3 steps. Any other questions, Will?
Nope. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. Clear here. Next, we have Tyler. It could work. You don't have to, let's see. It's not too steep, but it depends on how you do your grading later. If you do your grading later so that water flows into the middle, then you don't have to have green space there. Okay, you may be able to just solve that, though, connecting the existing contours and create a pretty steep slope somewhere here, or you could even put a retaining wall there later. Well, this is just a heads up. You don't have to understand how to connect later on, but if you're not draining, if we're draining like this, and we need retention areas, stormwater treatment areas later on here, then you can see we're not having enough space in this corner. Okay, so this will be a heads up that later on it might need to be changed. For now, you don't have to worry too much about it, but it could require revision later on. So the one thing that I think it actually could be, you can move this sidewalk actually to here. It actually makes sense to move it closer to the middle. Reason being, when I am a pedestrian, I see the building here, and then I feel like, okay, I will find whichever way that I can walk the closest distance, right? So people will be tempted to walk on the road because it's a little bit closer on the north side and then get into the building. That creates a little bit of a hazard or danger if this is deemed too far away and less convenient. Now I'll just walk along the driving aisle, right? And this also makes it a little difficult to keep 50 feet away from the vegetation. That makes sense? If I move my sidewalk here, I'm not using that 50 feet distance. And it's also incorporated with your vegetation area here, which make even more sense. Okay, so your sidewalk can be moved over in the middle. That saves some space, and that could even mean that you can stay away from that contour. The whole thing could be moved southward a tad. Then you can stay away from that corner steep area. Okay, So that is about the drop-off area. You do not need this little thing in the middle, okay? You would, oh, how wide is this?
30 feet.
That's 30 feet. Then this circle is a lot smaller there. Okay, we do not need that little thing there. That will align actually with this. Okay, so the middle, I understand your intention, but the little island there is not as effective as kind of tightening the curve here a little bit. Okay, then I know that this is the major direction and then a 90-degree angle here. Okay, so let's see the other things. We have a pretty spacious turnaround for the car. This work. You have 16 and 24 spaces. You do need to round these. Okay, round these. Round all the corners there. Round that one. Stairs, wall, ramp. Ramp needs to be much longer. Okay, ramp needs to be 200 feet. So it's more likely is a zigzag shape, to the side. And lower plaza, it's a shape. Okay, entrance plaza. Rounding these. I think this drop-off occupies a little bit too much space. Now, in the interest of limiting paved space, I would probably push it back a little bit. Okay. And that's all I have. I think it's in a good shape. It just needs a little bit of tweaking. Small revisions. Any other questions you want to ask? Good. Jillian, did I pronounce it correctly? Jillian, okay, thank you. It's a little hard to read. It looks like the building it's in a different dimension. Okay, it's probably too big there. Did you reach out about importing building footprint into CAD?
No.
Okay, so I know that Jonathan has been helping folks import the building footprint file into the base map at a right scale. I think that's what happened there. It's probably changed the scale when you imported it. So the building needs to be smaller. You could ask peers to show you how to import it, or you can reach out to Jonathan just to make sure that you have the right building size. Once that's fixed, I think you will have a much easier time, reserving some of these spaces for plaza or drop off instead of for the building. So your building is probably that big in the base map. And then I'm seeing 2 different drop-offs, which might be unnecessary, or a separate drop-off from your parking lot that might be unnecessary. So you could incorporate the car drop-off into your parking lot. The parking lot right now it's in the too steep area, and these are major contour lines, and they are even that close together. So the parking lot needs to be moved to this area. Okay, and then your drop-off at the end of that. And then this one, it feels like actually it might be better if you start here. Okay, this connection makes it a little bit awkward because you have to, because your bus drop is in this area, you kind of have to turn, you have to turn a pretty awkward angle to get to it. And at the same time, this road, it is creating a difficult connection to your parking lot in this area. So it's actually easier if you have this connection down here once you get through the 100 feet distance, starting from here and then connecting over like this. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the first thing I would recommend is actually lay out your parking space correctly. Okay, the right dimensions, 65 foot wide and probably 40 foot, yeah, 40 by 65 would be the dimension that is that covers 10 parking spaces per row. You have 4 rows of parking there. Follow the detail design of that blade shape and put it in the flat area. That's the first step. And then add the turnaround to the end of the parking. The second step, I would say, to move the entry road to 100 feet away from the intersection, meanwhile keeping it 50 feet from the vegetation. Easiest way to do it would be offsetting, or you create a separate P line for the boundary, the edge of the vegetation, and then you offset by 50 feet, and that gives you the lower edge of the entry drive for the bus drop-off. The third thing would be to correct your building import and put the building in roughly this location. Not too far away, but enough distance from the vegetation on the other side, and also enough distance from the property line on the south side. Okay, those are the 3 steps. Okay. Next we have margin. Okay, share this one. Yeah, that one. Did I rotate the entire project as you suggested? Is the alignment now suitable for the site slope? What should I do to design a beautiful parking lot? So yeah, you correctly outlined where you think that there are improvements. How wide should these? Well, this is 25. This is 25, and that is 30. Okay. So you are very close. We need to round all these lines. I know you probably reserved all these to the end because you want to make sure that they are, no, they're at the right location. That's a 90-degree as well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So this is 2-way already. This is 25, right? Yes. In that case, you don't need such a big one. You feel like you can fit 4 cars at least in this drop-off, and we don't need it to be that big. Because when you limit this to 1 lane, people will know, okay, I am only supposed to drive here if I want to drop some people off. Otherwise, if this is too wide, folks, when they come to here, they might basically zoom through that space as well. You want to try to limit that. So the suggestion would be to make this smaller, make this area smaller, and by going into like here, only leaving 1 space, okay? If you don't have enough, these areas, they would just collect dirt. So you basically stop it wherever. If you have a vegetation area that you can stop at the vegetation area, right? But your pavement should only limit to where you expect people will walk or car will be driving through, okay? You could add more vegetation. I don't think this point you have to, because at this point, you cannot anticipate what kind of grading I need to do later. You cannot anticipate how do I insert a island or a medium or a vegetation area at the edge to try to treat the water. So I think we can leave the beautification a little bit later. So when you kind of have the whole picture, then you can make it more beautiful. The other thing is this needs to be at this kind of the offset curve of the inner curve, right? Again, these areas will be collecting dirt if we make it too big. And we definitely need plaza lines. Okay, plaza lines, starting from here and stopping on the sides. You need to add some sort of sidewalk, determine where it makes the most sense to add a sidewalk. I actually think if this is a rain garden, it might be interesting to put a sidewalk here and then zigzag through there. Yeah, it could be interesting to do that. And I think your parking is off steep area, so those work. Everything is at it didn't violate any distance rules that we specified. So in a good shape. Okay, anything else? No, okay. I think the last one is Matt. Okay. All right. You do not need bus parking. And this parking lot pedestrian. Oh, it's Matt here? Okay. This parking lot pedestrian friendly enough. Because I don't see sidewalk, so I can't not really judge. I can judge from whether or not people need to walk across. So your orientation of the parking lot, no, we're not playing Frogger, so that's good. And you're concerned about where people would walk. Okay, you do need to add a sidewalk per the requirements of the assignment. And I think, no, this is probably a good way to have a sidewalk either here or there. No, somewhere in here, having one of them. Because this is only 4 rows of parking, people walk this way or that way, it's acceptable, right? As Stuart introduced in his lecture, if it's only 4 rows, you could walk in this direction and getting into your plaza area. You could later on design something in the middle here for people. For instance, if ADA is here, then they don't need a ramp. Yeah, this area seems a little dangerous to the pedestrian. Let's see. We're turning around. So your island would actually be here because you're directing people to turn around. The major turning direction is here. Okay, and then does it make sense? So this is the driving aisle. I'm outlining the driving aisle. You want this driving aisle to flow pretty well.
So I can get rid of like that other turnaround part then?
You can reduce the size of it. And this is to make sure that, no, at least first, I have 2-way and a loop around my parking lot. And then I need to make sure that I have a drop-off area, right? So how do I do that? I would enlarge this area. So then actually this line, you will get rid of that line. Does that make sense? So your green is actually here. Your green is here. Okay? then I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about, the pedestrians crossing a pretty spacious drop-off area where you might have a lot of cars. Yeah, adding a sidewalk and try to round these corners. These corner needs to be tightened up a little, right? Because you want to use the curve to restrict people's speed. And otherwise, I think it works. Okay. Building position, okay. Retaining wall, okay. Well, retaining wall, you would just put it flush with the wall of the building, okay? Because the space you created in between the walls and the building, you wouldn't use it anyway.
So like, if I couldn't put like stairs or a ramp there?
Yes, yeah. In one of them, you could put the stairs, but you don't have enough space for enough length for the ramp. The ramp needs to be 200 feet, remember? So the ramp will be a zigzag line, a curved line on the side somewhere, okay? Or whichever area you have more space. One thing I do recommend doing would be move the whole thing upper a little bit toward this contour line. You can see I still have a lot of flat space here that I'm not using, but here I'm getting into pretty steep area. I'm not convinced that we have 50 feet here yet, okay? So that will help you move the whole thing away more, I would say more of the bus drop-off area into a flatter terrain and stay away from the vegetation. Okay? Cool. All right. So some of you might have arrived late and missed a review. If you're one of those, you can feel free to come up, to my table and we can go through your because I run the review a little bit differently from Stuart. If there's no other events, I typically call out the names. If you're not here, I will actually move forward to the next student who are here, okay? If you're one of those, feel free to come over. You can still get a review. We still have quite a lot of time today, okay? Okay. So for this one, do the drop-off area have to be a certain distance from the building? No, well, if you have 25, at least 25, it should work. Okay. Yes, there should be walls on both sides of the building as retaining walls, but you wouldn't have a gap space between the retaining wall and the building because that space you have to feel unless you have a specific use for that space. Otherwise, your retaining wall will be extension of the building wall. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when it would start then in the,
Yes,
like the back corners?
it will be here.
Okay.
Okay, because that space you can fit in a stair. You could have one stair in it. You don't have to have two stairs on both sides. So one of the retaining wall will be here. Okay, if you have stairs there, the retaining wall will be there. And then you will get rid of that line. But on the other side, your retaining wall will be a continuation of your building wall.
Okay.
Okay.
And I was
So
gonna place the stairs on the top because there's no contours. And then do the ramp on the bottom.
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. In terms of other design, you have a curved parking lot. Are these sidewalk? You don't necessarily have to have a sidewalk over here
Okay.
unless you have some destinations, right? If you have, for instance, a sculpture exhibition, then you could draw people over. But if it's for walking to the building, I doubt people will use those because I get off my car and I just walk around to get into the building, right? I wouldn't necessarily retreat back to the sidewalk and then go around a longer way. So this side will not be used as often.
Even if that's parking on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this one would be, if it's connected to the road, something in the middle would actually be used. If I connect toward the entry road, if someone walk directly from here, and then either along this way, I think along that way makes the most sense, because people usually, most people, they would choose the closest distance along their sight line to the building entrance.
Mhm.
Okay, so unless there's a specific thing that you want people to, as a destination, I mean, I have a highlight or a focal point here, and then you design your sidewalk around those. If it's just for connecting, people usually choose their start point, the short line between their start point and their destination, which is the building entrance. Okay, yeah. So I don't think that's necessary. You could keep this, but realize that, well, let me zoom in to show, later on you would get into those level of details of where exactly are the vegetation line. Okay. So for instance, in this case, you would have the sidewalk, actually the boundary is here. And the whole thing here might just be vegetation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You wouldn't have a paved line. No, if this is a curved parking lot, if you leave that space open, it will be dumpsters, right? Dumpsters or other things, people just, put it there, right? So this would be vegetation, and this will be the start of the sidewalk. That makes sense. And then you need another line, right? Let's see.
I mean, the space between those two, like I was gonna do like plaza
Mm-hmm.
or maybe add in vegetation, but like as of right now, I was just thinking that it would be plaza.
Right. So this feels like this is this double line. That's the curb, right? That's the curb. The curb might stop right there. And then this is, oh, okay, that's your vegetation as well. This is the vegetation as well. And then your sidewalk actually needs to continue. Does that make sense? It continue, and then you get to the plaza, and you would want your plaza edge to form a vertical, a 90-degree angle with your curb over here. Because when you do the pavement, you don't really do an accurate angle for the pavement, right? Usually you pave when you have a perpendicular connection with the curb line there. So that's your pavement line. And this one can connect like that, that's okay. If you don't have steps here, you can connect just to the edge, or you can connect even smaller. I don't suppose you want to expand there unless there's, again, a destination there. We're not. So
Car drop off, is there enough room between like that last parking spot and then the car drop off?
Well, let me go through the payment edge, and then we'll come back to that, okay? So for this one, the same thing, you would have the vegetation here. And then that's that's your driving. If you want to have some sort of sidewalk, you could stop somewhere in the middle. I don't think people will walk back and then come back. But some folks, if they are already here, it's not a huge difference, then they might start using it. You don't have to have that. But if you want to keep part of the part of the sidewalk there, I wouldn't object to that. So now, once we get here, your connection is correct, right? I am having my plaza boundary there. And honestly, yes, if I have a stairs, then I stop the payment. The last portion, I need to delete that. So that's your payment. line there, okay? So that is about the edge of the pavement. It needs to be specified, okay? So let's come back to the overall design. Overall design, the drop off, I would do something like this because now we're dropping people off on the left side. I am driving, oh, no, sorry. I'm driving along this way and then people are dropped off over here. And then they need to cross the bus to get to your building. That makes sense? You would want it to be mirrored, okay? To be mirrored like this. I drive and I stop here, I drop people off right there and people walk to the building. Okay, so this needs to be mirrored. And then let's see, what else? That work. Yeah, I would increase the distance here by moving the building back by about one contour. And then you should have enough space there. Yeah, that's the revisions that I would suggest. I think other things work fine. Okay.
The mirror that drop off,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't really wanna move the location of the lot, like I kind of got it in a spot where it was within like the, like say contour and not in the vegetation zone, so could I just keep the front half and then just continue, I guess, the curve after the turn to the parking lot?
Do you mean
Like-
this?
Yeah,
Well-
but, like just like the entrance into the lot, like that turn right over there.
You can do
is there a way
this.
to keep that,
Keep,
like so that I don't need to move the parking lot, I guess.
there is a benefit of moving just a tad. Reason being, we're in a pretty steep area here.
Okay. Just like,
Yeah.
shift everything down.
Yeah, honestly, if you move everything down by one contour, it will be much easier later.
The
Okay.
thing was with that is that
Hmm.
that road right now is like right outside of the 50-foot drip line of the bottom left.
Here?
Yeah, from like there to that vegetation is like just 50 feet.
Yeah, can you see, I just need to turn this curve. And then you have, then I would still connect like this,
Okay.
but I would move the whole thing
Down.
just down for a tad.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I would stay probably at that contour line. And you can see that I only have just a limited portion of the parking lot that's on a steep slope.
And if that happens, is the car drop off gonna be too close to the house?
I don't think so because you're moving sort of in a parallel direction
Okay.
from your house, right? Your building. So the distance from your drop off to your building would stay roughly the same.
Okay.
And you're also moving the building backwards a little.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so you wouldn't run into that problem. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Next. Your name? Gabby, okay. Ah, come on. Let's see. There, the one. Okay. So. Okay, I'm not quite understanding I do understand the building right now, it's a little too close to the landscape area. And so this is no area for parking lot. Okay, the parking needs to be here. needs to be this area. We are not 50 feet away from the vegetation yet. So that needs to be moved, and this is too big. It's much bigger than 110, so we need to make it smaller. 110. Yeah, 110. 110 or 100. That's the minimal, okay? That's in diameter. Your building needs to be somewhere here. Okay. So the key thing now is to show, okay, my lower plaza is connected to my building, right? It's less about the design of the plaza. It's more about, okay, I understand where each component is, and it's connected correctly to the building. All right. So your building, your upper plaza will essentially be in this area. Your parking lot will be here. And then your drop off will essentially be somewhere here. Well, you can loop it or using that line, vegetation line as a guideline. You can offset by 50 feet, so you know how close I can get to that vegetation. So basically 50 feet away, and then my drop off can be in this area, although it's pretty steep. But no, it seems like we don't have a better, well, we could push it a bit back, a little bit back. So I'm still relatively not getting into this steeper area. I can, for instance, go somewhere here. Okay. And then all the things needs to start with the parking lot design. 40, you can do single loaded 20 parking spaces per row, 2 rows of parking, adding a drop off, a roundabout at the end. And that's the simplest form. And then if you don't have enough distance, you curve it. Okay, you curve it like Amelia just did, right? And then otherwise you could do the blade design. You can trace off of the lecture slide, right? Do a 40 by 65, trace off that, make sure that you're at the right scale, and just plop it up on the map and find the flattest area, just put the blade over there, and then add your drop off, and then see, how much distance they need to keep from each other, right? So definitely start from the parking lot, okay? We have run through enough, I would say we have run through enough examples for you to get to know the basic sort of relationship among each components. This is one of the typical ones. Although there's some things that need to twig, but basically you have the bus drop off at the bottom, the blade parking lot on the top, and your building on the side. Okay. So start with this portion, move to that one, and then try to connect the 3 things together. Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other questions you have for your, let's see. Let's see. You do need a sidewalk. And retaining wall placement, those are okay. Extension of the building wall, right? Yes, plazas need sidewalks to show that they connect. So right now it feels like things are not in the right dimension and they're not connected yet. Okay, start with the parking lot. Okay. Is it okay that move forward? Okay.
It's
Asharaya. Oh, okay.
Okay, I just realized that I did the bus dimension wrong. I put 100 radius instead.
Okay. Your bus drop off. Oh, you did the 100 radius. Yeah. The problem is that currently your bus drop off kind of connects back to the parking lot, which we don't recommend. Right? You won't want the bus to go back to be in the flow of the cars. So that needs to be separated. And okay, the entrance here, we're getting into pretty steep area. So it's actually better if you move. So the entrance would actually directly go into that driving aisle. That makes sense? So basically you would have your blade starting from here. And then I would move the whole thing down by, that's about 20 plus 10, 30 feet. Okay. And then this directly goes into this aisle. The reason being, I don't know if that, the reason being, if I come here, then I will need to ponder a little bit to see if I go to turn left or turn right. Although both are two-way, well, current design, they are not two-way yet, but that's okay. You don't want people to spend time to make that decision. You want people to know exactly, okay, I'm just gonna intuitively, I know I drive to this aisle. Okay, so you basically, I am driving, suppose this entry is here, I'm driving like this and then loop around. Instead of saying, I go to here, I don't know where to go. Although it might be okay to go either way. In some cases, well, in this design, actually, you cannot go either way. You cannot go either way. You have to go that way to be able to loop around. So, okay, that's that. I want this direction and then loop around like that and then back to that direction. Okay, so that's that. Once you fix this, for this one, it will be basically a simplification, right? I'm just gonna do this. Does that make sense? Yeah, and I would not need that one, because this is only connecting one of them, and that one actually goes to the bus drop off. It makes it too complicated for people to understand where exactly to go. Okay, so those are about the parking lot design. Sidewalk works okay. I imagine this will be some, oh, you have sidewalk and then you have in between some of the, yeah, yeah.
And like the area around. But I think I might change the designs, like what you suggested earlier.
Right. For now, I think the whole thing can be green. Yeah, because your sidewalk here doesn't necessarily lead you. Well, you could have sidewalk if you later on design a really you want to design a really gorgeous rain garden there. You could have some space for people to stand by and just observe, right? So definitely you can have sidewalk over there, but that sidewalk you could expect that it's not for connection between the parking lot to the building. The main function doesn't look like it's connecting. It's for people to stop there, to spend some time there. Now, if you want an actual connection to the building, it might be somewhere here, right? Somewhere here, or even, I would say somewhere in the middle, connecting either this part of the parking lot or this part of the bus drop off. The road, I'm going from here and then somewhere at some point I cross, or I go around my bus drop off area and then I go to my building. Okay. So, you do not need an offset around your building. Your plaza will start from the edge of the bottom of the building. The upper plaza would be connected to somewhere, yeah, something like that. And we went through where the stairs and the ramps should be, right? So my recommendation for you would be stay away from the 50 feet first, and then correct your diameter of your bus drop off, and then simplify this. You have a little bit of work to do, but I think you understand pretty well how these should be connected. Okay?
The wall.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be like on the side of the building.
if you have a stairs here, the wall is here. If you don't have stairs there, the wall is there. Okay? Yeah. Alrighty, you're welcome.
Hi, the lady view.
Okay. Mm. And
Right above it.
above it. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, we have a lot of sidewalks, which is good. We have some flat areas that we didn't use, which can be modified. So what I would recommend that we do here is let's try to stay away from, at least I will move over 20 feet so that I stay only on one. No, so this is one steep area. Two contours, one area in between those that are relatively steep.
Okay.
But we don't want to cross even more of that. So let's move like about 20 feet over so that we stay off that area. We have a lot of space over here,
Yeah.
right? So actually it makes more sense to have your drop off over here and then have this like that,
Okay.
right? And then your connection would be just like that. Now you're connecting into one of the aisle. The driving aisle is here, there, right? You align that entry road with your driving aisle, and then that's it. I think your building is okay in an okay location. Your drop-off area is, you can move like what I can't remember who that was that I explained this. Let me clear this and zoom into it so that you can see it more clearly. So the reason I would suggest doing that is you would want people who are looping around the parking lot to have the primary path. Because right now you feel like I am driving. So this forces, if I drive here, if I need to turn 90-degree to park instead of drop off, that takes more time. You want people that so the primary or I want to make it a little bit bigger even. So you want to do something like this. So if I loop around, there's only one, there's no other choice for me to choose if I want to, or the primary, I don't need to think about. I just naturally just drive around the parking lot to find a parking space. If I need to drop people off, then I drop people off on the far side of this road, right? I pull a little bit closer to the curb and then drop people off. And then I kind of flow back, merging to the flow back into the parking lot. So turning 90-degree to loop around, it makes, I would say it's a secondary choice other than pull around and drop people off. So I would move the island back and simply enlarge this area to the curb and to the drop off area. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? Rounding some of the connections. You can wait until later once you finalize everything. You can reduce some of the sidewalk. You don't need both sides for the sidewalk along the bus drop off. I would keep the one that is closer to the to where people come from. And that's it. Oh, one little detail. one little detail at the edge. I suppose that you are indicating that this is green area and you actually don't need that. You actually don't need this. Yeah, you basically just, yes, yes. Same. Yeah, you can remove that. It's these areas that are important to lay out. And here you need to merge, and then that's how you start a parking stall. That makes sense? Yeah, so this curve needs to be an offset of that curve. Okay, and that curve. Okay. Make sure those are 90-degree. Okay, all the parking stall lines would be 90-degree to the larger curve. But you need to make sure that this is 90. Oh, yeah, 10. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have for this one.
And you said you went over like the retaining wall and stairs locations for.
What color do I make the stairs and retaining walls? The color, I'm not sure if you meant in the plotting style or in the CTB file. 235, I think 235.ctb it has stairs and retaining walls, right? Do you guys remember? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you follow the 235 CTB file there. Retaining walls, the location of that, it's correct. If you have stairs, then you make some space for the stairs and your retaining walls, it's outside there. Okay?
Do I need stairs?
Yes, everybody needs to design a set of stairs and a set of ramp. Yeah. Okay.
Evelyn Barton.
Okay. Okay. We're pretty close here. The 50 feet, double check that.
Yeah, I just did. It's a little long.
Okay, okay.
I don't know how to fix the entrance and also make it like more than 50 feet away.
Well, your line will be likely curved like this, and then you make a polyline following the boundary and make a 50-foot offset. Okay. So other things look okay to me other than, you need to round things. Make this island a little bit bigger so then you can, well, I guess what you were trying to do is you wanted to fit in more cars here. In that case, sorry. In that case, you would, for this part, you would follow whatever this radius is, okay? But then you make this portion a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be one arc line for the curb here. It will show there's an enlargement in the middle, but these curve follow whatever radius, an offset radius from this island. Okay, so you would have sort of a uniform, well, you would want to keep the sense of a driving aisle by doing that. It's like I'm following the same radius here, right? I want to follow the same radius here. And then I enlarge at some point for this one. And then I do, so in the middle, I create a different signal that you're supposed to pull over there. But when you drive in, this needs to be the same 25 radius, 25 width. Otherwise, I do not see, well, your wall, if this is a stair in between, then the wall makes sense. For this one, if there's no stairs, you just extend the building line. Okay. Yeah, rounding, and then like this, the position of that works. If you, once you move this over, if you don't feel like you have enough space, then you might rotate this a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, counterclockwise, rotate it a little bit, then you can stay. Well, mostly now you're away from the steep area, so I'm not too concerned. This is a little steep, so if you have a little bit room, I could even suggest that you move things a little bit to that side, because this is very flat. All right, that's a little steep there. Okay, but not a big deal. Okay, cool. All right, anything else?
One more actually.
Oh, go ahead.
The bus route, is it, a 25-foot like driving aisle?
For the bus, it's a 30. Yes.
Both vegetation buffers have to be, 50 feet?
Yeah. Normally you wouldn't get too close to that part of the vegetation because your parking lot, no, your building wouldn't get that close. Usually, the suggested location we gave you already preclude that part. Okay. All right.
Just asking if you go over mine.
Yeah, sure. And your name is? Okay. Okay, I suppose this is the other road?
Yes.
Okay. So we're getting too close here. Yeah, the first thing I would do is actually I would basically rotate this. Okay. I rotate that for it to be here, and then my drop off is naturally somewhere here.
Okay.
You might be able to solve that just by rotating. This is 30, and I think it looks a little thin to me. So double check the dimension here.
Like
If
yeah.
yeah, because this is 20, right?
Yeah.
This is 20, so that doesn't look thick enough, not wide enough to me. This needs to be 30, okay?
Yeah.
Once you turn it, it could be this one would not align with that road anymore. I don't think it's a big issue. You can actually start here. I think starting here might be a better solution, right? Starting here, having your drop off and your parking lot somewhere over here.
So make the parking lot kind of angled.
You don't have to. I will try rotating the two things together first.
Okay.
If it doesn't fit, then you start changing the shape of the parking lot. But I don't think is warranted at this point.
Okay.
I think you might need to change the connection to this way. And the building right now is on pretty flat land. I would push it backward.
Okay.
Push it backward, and then you would have a larger plaza space, which is a better thing.
Okay.
And the other things would be, you need to round things.
Alright.
Yeah, start rounding all these corners. Your parking lot actually stops here, okay? It stops here because this is green anyway, so you don't have to have more boundaries there. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah.
You stop,
it makes
yeah.
sense. People would park there anyways, and I just kind of want to get rid of it if.
Yes, yeah, you just round it like this, and then this is green anyway, so those needs to be rounded, and I wouldn't, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell where vegetation is and where pavement is as of now, right? I can see that you have a paved, but what's in between, right? If it's a sidewalk, I close it off. Does that make sense?
I was just indicating that it's kind of separate
from the.
Oh,
bus
okay.
Drop off in the
Mhm.
building. I was just trying to add a degree of separation, but I
Okay.
can see how that's.
Yeah. At this stage, we would outline the exact pavement boundaries.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not conceptual anymore. Okay, retaining walls would be here. No, it actually is flush with the building. If you are not putting a stair in between. So retaining,
Stairs
yeah,
in between. Yeah.
oh, okay,
So I had the top stair and bottom stair.
right. You only need one set of stairs.
Okay.
You don't need two sets of stairs, so you can decide which one you want to keep. If
Okay.
you have stairs, then in the middle, it will be stairs and the retaining wall will be covering your lower plaza at least. Okay,
Alright.
so it doesn't need to be that long. For the plotting, I would plot the whole base map. Well, whatever specified scale is on the assignment. It was 30 scale. Is the page? Is
I tried 30 scale. I mean, when I was.
Okay.
They're my view for it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard to see the background. That's why I'm suggesting that you plot a bigger 30 scale, 24 by 36.
Yeah, I was in 11 by 17.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Oh, I was gonna ask if the roundabout for the bus drop off, is that an acceptable road width for that?
This needs to, yes, if this looks like it's more than 35
is.
and that's, yeah, you would do a 35, that would be enough. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Let's see. Let me clear. And your name?
Tim.
Tim, okay. Mhm. Let's see. I'm trying to look for 104, right? Okay. Okay, it's not responding. Okay, so we have a pretty winding entrance road. That's a special. We have a parking lot that had a drop off on the north side. And this is the bus drop off, I suppose. So the bus coming in and you're connecting like this parking lot. So the first thing I would note is that I'm not sure you have a big enough parking lot.
Yeah.
So
I just kind of put it there, cause
Mhm.
I wanna do angled parking
mm-hmm,
spots. And I know if they're just just straight on,
mm-hmm.
perpendicular, it would be 200, I wasn't sure.
Okay,
On the calculations for just yet.
okay.
I still have to-
So I
that-
would,
that goes into
Yeah.
my question about 45 or 60 degrees. For angled parking, I don't know if there's. Better way.
what I would do is I would do a, let's see. I would probably measure a 200 feet. Let's see. If I do a curved parking lot and then I offset by 20 and I offset by 25 again, and then I offset by 20, right? So I would have sort of a 200 by 65. Right? The width is 65 there. I might even start with a rectangle. I start with a rectangle and I put it on the flat area. And then I see how much I'm lacking space for. Does that make sense? If part of my rectangle start to fall on steeper land, I start to curve the 200 feet line, right? 200 feet line, and it might take as much as that much space, based on experience looking at others' who have outlined a curved, it could be taking up almost from here to there. And then you might need to curve that much to get 200 feet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, I might have been a little misleading on how I present that question.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about having like, instead of, if you're driving through the parking lot straight
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
well, draw- think this is the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having parking spots like this.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have parking spots be like this angle.
Oh, you want, okay. Are you thinking about, well, angled parking, usually it's one way.
Yeah, so, is that an issue?
Well, we wouldn't, because you're only having 2 rows of it, right? So it will be,
Well, I'll have 4, that's what that turnaround at the top is, and then there's, at the drop off there's a connector.
oh,
So if you do need to turn back around, you can take that, make a left back into the parking lot.
so the turnaround, we would suggest for that to be toward your building. So that becomes a drop off and a turnaround area. What I would recommend would be for you to measure and so make a not angled, a 90-degree angle first and see how much space you need. And then you can decide how much I need to rotate to fit them in. You,
Okay.
in this case, in our assignment, you actually don't need to rotate it at all to try to fit in either a single loaded or double loaded parking. So if you like the blade shape, you can start with the blade shape. If you like, yeah, I think you were proposing 4 lanes, right? For
Yeah.
4 rows of parking.
Yeah,
In
so
that
there's like
case,
2 blocks and then.
Uh-huh.
split in between. So it'll be parking on, like, 2 rows in the middle and then.
Mhm.
One on either outside edge.
so in that case, you're in this scenario.
Yes, right.
If you're in this scenario, you don't need to make it angled. You
Okay.
have enough space to fit them in.
Got
Okay, you have enough space to fit them in. We just need to get accurate at this point. We need to get accurate at this point so that we know how much space your parking lot will occupy and put it in this area where you have the flattest land. Okay?
Okay.
And then once we get through that, we're not doing the curved parking, we're doing a big blade over here. That's how much space I would anticipate it will take, right? And then we'll have a little bit of enlarged drop-off area over here. If you want a winding entry road, that's okay, but I would start here because this road, you're not leading it to anywhere and it's pretty steep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, one of my question, that was a weird spot for me. That I just kind of put it in there because I knew it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it would draw some questions.
Right. You
Um,
could start here. You
okay.
start here. You have a drop off somewhere here.
Right,
Okay. And then you can connect it to the parking lot like that.
gotcha.
Okay. So I wouldn't connect these 2 parts in the middle here. The reason being, when my bus dropped the people off, I might, not pay attention just while I drive. Then I just went into the car drop off and a lot of things are going on here and I might not have the enough turning radius for my bus there, right? So you don't want to encourage that. You would just basically loop around and get rid of those. And your connection would be from a separate, a branching away from this road. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason why I didn't do something like that was because everybody else was doing something like that, and I wanted to try something different and put the entrance. I felt like there's not much you could do to change up the drop off and parking area, but the entrance drive is where you can really change things up, so. I had that longer entrance road, kind of like, I don't know if you've been to like a vineyard where you have to
Mhm.
drive along the vineyard before you actually get to the actual building.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You
And
could,
there is like
yeah.
that view at the top there, which I probably should have shown more in my
You
viewport
mean,
there. So like as you come in, if you look to the left as you enter,
Mhm.
there's like that kind of, like, what's the opposite of a ridge? A little valley that goes down.
mm-hmm,
I thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to maybe use that since I'm using the view on the other side of that hilltop.
okay.
Uh, my thoughts.
You're aligning these, those are good thoughts. But that does create a problem, reason being, it's pretty steep. So we're not saying that we should not be creative in our grading class. That's not what we're trying to encourage. What we encourage is that we put some principles above other priorities in this class. The principles, for instance, being that we avoid having an entry drive over really steep, like over 14%. That's sort of a no-no because, you know, there are a lot of compromises once you get to 14%. If we have a better alternative, sort of we place that as a higher priority than creating a special experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that no, we should not exercise or creativity in this class. We're emphasizing let's grasp the most basic and make it work first. And then we can no, based on that, we could exercise our creativity. Okay, so if this area is pretty flat, I would say go ahead and do that.
I thought that it was pretty similar to anywhere else along that section. There was a rectangle that was put on there that said place entrance drive in here. And I thought that that was an okay spot. So, yeah, thank you for clarification on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't kill this idea just yet. Measure this for this to be 100 foot. Okay, if this is below 100 foot, then no, right? Because you need to keep the entrance drive 100 foot from an existing intersection. If that's within 100 foot, I think, well, it will still, this is still too steep for an entry drive. So I would still opt for some area here. And about 100 feet here, this is pretty flat. And that makes it a lot easier for you to do the entry drive. Again, I applaud the intention to say, I want to do something different. And you have this view, right? You have this direction of the view. All those are really good thought. We can keep this at this point. I would encourage to get an opinion from Stuart as well. I'm not sure how, well, did he comment on the entry drive last time? Do you remember?
I didn't have that entry drive.
Oh.
That wasn't even an idea.
Okay. Okay.
But I started seeing everybody else's and I decided I wanted to change mine.
Okay.
And do something different.
Yeah, let's opt for this. Let's measure for it to be 100 foot and see where it lands. If it lands in this area, definitely no, because this is getting really steep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if not, then if it's about in this area, then we'll say, okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Then we have a different entry drive, but that connection, I would never do that.
Okay.
Just because it create a lot of chaos for both parking lots.
Gotcha.
So I would say first thing, lay out the parking lot. Second thing, make the dimension of the drop off correct. And then third thing, check if this is 100 feet away from the intersection. If not, then we will need to move it to be aligned either here or here.
Okay.
Okay, if this is within 100 feet, then we can keep for now, get an opinion of Stuart's. And if he also thinks that that's too much trouble for grading, then we give up and we find something, to create later on. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. We will put the building a little bit lower because this is very flat. If it's very flat, then it's hard to create that 10-foot difference between the upper level and the back level, okay? You could still create a pretty, amazing plaza like what you have here, but just move the building a couple of contours down. All right.
So just one last question about, if I stuck with this design, breaking off a road to get to the parking, would I be able to just like, I guess I wouldn't be able to directly follow that line, but would I be able to use a retaining wall to kind of stay on that ledge? I know like the retaining wall should be near the building, but if I need to use another one, like, would that be an option?
You could,
Okay.
yeah. If we're designing a really sort of I would say a regionally important museum, then you can actually leverage the topography.
Hmm.
Well, it's only because this is a low budget local project.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I would go the practical route. But if you imagine, oh, this is a really important building and this is a museum of some sort, we're leveraging the topography as an exhibition space, then, go forward.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm good on questions. Any other comments? or anything?
That's all I have there. Yeah, before you submit, review the rubric, just to
Yeah.
make sure that you have everything
Yeah.
complete there, okay? Mm-hmm.
Oh, one last thing, with the road, the road that's there looks very small to me, it's only like 7 feet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the lane is supposed to be like 10 feet or something. or 12 feet.
Yeah, 25 for two-way.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
you mean that local,
So
that
the
road
local there, yeah. that
given
just
to
looks
you?
small.
Yeah,
That doesn't matter.
doesn't matter, you don't have to change it.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to change it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All righty.